to hear what you think on that. So,
I'm part
so
of a
that
rehoming
it's a,
agency, and I'd say at least 3 months, because it takes them that long to settle in.
okay.
However, you sometimes do have some that don't work out after that, or someone's
Yep.
life changes and they get returned and
Yep.
we rehome them again. So we're hoping that you're going to keep that in situ.
Right.
Because this is what these great guys do.
Yeah. Where the rehoming agencies are all wanting to keep that aspect as part of it.
And how long after the last dog is gone is that still going to be in situ for these
Well,
people to be there?
That the agency won't be here after 3 or 5 years. 5 years max. Three in the first.
The transition agency, you say?
Yeah.
It might be.
Sorry, I didn't hear where that came from.
Um,
Oh, you were at the back.
Yeah, no, you're saying agency.
Yeah, so
like
the
yeah.
transition agency, the legislation, we only exist at the moment until the end of July 2029. If the rehoming has not been completed, and if everything else hasn't been done on that, I just get shocked. But if the rehoming agency, rehoming hasn't been completed, there is the possibility under the legislation for that to be extended for 2 years. But it's quite deliberately set up as this is a short-term agency, not an ongoing agency. So, and we've talked with rehoming agencies, you know, that what happens to them after that, a number of them assume that there will still be work for them to do out there. But
I just want to say quickly on that, like, I'm just going to give one example of a dog that I had. I'm not going to mention the dog's name, but he was born in December 2018. He had his last race start in November 28th in 2023. So he was not quite 5 years old, and I normally don't race my dogs till 5, but because he was able to, he was sound, in the end I pulled him. So he was 5. I waited 6 months. He waited 6 months at home before he went to Young Gap. He went to Gap on the 20th of June 2024. It is now the 15th of April 2026, so we're nearly 2 years down the track. And that dog is actually still not been rehomed, and he went down basically 2 years ago, and it's nothing against the rehoming agencies because they all do an amazing job, but there are some dogs that are just not rehomable, and he is a prime example because he had a split personality, and I knew that, and I told Anthony when he went there, but the thing is, so he's already been 2 years, and he still hasn't been rehomed. Now, that's just one example of what can happen. And he's still alive, and I believe, I know he's still alive, but I know he hasn't gone out to an actual home. And you're going to get more cases like that, and you're saying, we're going to get them all rehomed in 3 years. No way at all. And you need to think about the 3 years after that, because of this dog, one that I know of, because I keep track, or try to keep track of where all my dogs go, 2 years, and he still has not. So he's been under the care of Gap and Great Mates or whatever for 2 years and still hasn't got a home. One example, think about it.
I think that speaks to the car park effect of what's been happening with the 500 to 600 dogs that have been rehomed in the year. You even spoke earlier about the American market closing down. Now it is a finite market. Once those spaces get taken, the dog has a life, 5 or 6 years in a home. So that particular home doesn't open up again. And you are competing, these 1,700 dogs are competing directly with this PCA, who look directly for funding for the animals that they're trying to rehome. So it's an ever-decreasing circle. It's not to say that those holes don't open up again, but once an animal is rehomed, it's going to be rehomed for a number of years. You're not taking multiple dogs.
Nobody said this was going to be easy.
No, but it supports Marcy's point
Yeah.
that 2 years
Yeah,
is a
Yeah, well, as I said,
He's
I'm
7
not.
and a half now, like, who wants to take 7? I mean, some people might want to take 7 and a half, but
going way back to your, sorry, it's different conversations, going back to timing. I sought legal advice, and when I end my contract with NZGA, 20 days after, I do not have to comply with any of their rules. So as far as you saying about dogs moving on to other homes, I would suspect it's 20 days after you have no responsibility.
Sorry, I missed it.
You've missed what part of it? The legal?
Yeah, so you're saying 20 days?
Yeah, so from a legal perspective, my contract ends with GRNZ on the 31st of July. By 20 days later, we'll say the end of August, I no longer have any obligations to meet anything I was under the contract with NZGA. It's a non-void.
So, yeah, but if you've entered another contract...
If I do.
Yeah. You do.
If I do, yeah. But going back to you talking about timeframes for people, after 20 days there's no responsibility on you for what happens to the dog.
No, that's unfortunately not true, because in this situation, there is specific legislation which defines specified greyhounds as being any greyhound that was in existence.
It's a whole fight.
Right, and so they have, and that'll include your dogs, they have specific legislative protection, right? And so that's why the transition agency has been given the responsibility for tracking those specific dogs, right? So it was any dog that was in existence at the time that that initial legislation was put in.
I don't have a contract with you. I'm not going to sign a contract with you.
Okay, well,
So then you'd have no I'd have no obligation to meet them.
no, but well, you would, yeah.
This is
Not
now
signing a
25.
contract with me doesn't stop your dogs being specified greyhounds, right? And so,
So you're going to pay for my older dogs too now? That are sitting on my couch?
you know,
No, they're racing.
right? For a little while,
Oh, okay.
right?
Oh, now I've got more.
Right? I mean, this is a problem that I've been dealing with. But anyway, so what has to happen, what we have to do in that case, is we have to define your rehomed dogs, right, the ones sitting on your couch, as being rehomed in order to get them out of my responsibility to look after them, right? But we will have to do a process to do that. And that's why, we are going to have to be in communication to actually properly identify exactly where every one of those dogs is, whose couch they're on, right? Because we have to, in the end, provide a report that tells Parliament where every one of them went. Sorry, I didn't hear that, but it was probably...
Well, listen, before you sign off, can you, no disrespect, but the time is ticking. We've got 3 months on the clock.
Yep.
Can you give us a definitive time frame of when we should hear it? But we need that. You understand, I'm included, 80% of my bloody work is gone with the industry. I need some assurance to tell my staff that they still have a freaking job. You guys can't communicate with us at all. We need time frames. It does no good sitting in a room unless there's an actual time frame for us. Because you've been in existence, not TAG, but MAC, which is the same people, have been in existence for 18 months, and this is the first time that we're having this conversation.
Well, unfortunately, there are some legal implications of the fact that we couldn't actually do anything up until Parliament decided. All we had done up until that time was provide advice to the government. What the government did with it and what the select committee did with it was not anything, right, we could do anything about. And so until they decided what that legislation looked like, we had no power to do anything. So I can assure you I'm in as big a rush as you are, right? Because even in the original plan, this legislation was meant to be passed more than a month earlier. So I sympathise and empathise with you, and I am trying as hard as I can to get this going as quickly as we can.
There needs to be a way for TAG to communicate with the rest of us in a timely manner, something, even if it's in a month's time.
I will make, I will guarantee, because Christine will remind me, that following our board meeting, which we've got next week, we will send a communication out to the vets, explaining where we're up to.
Oh, not just the vets, but I mean.
No, I
these
know,
guys-
but vets have, if you haven't been, I mean, there will be other communication coming out to the owners trainers group, because
Yeah.
we've got that database. But I accept that we haven't sent a specific, anything to the vets. So we'll rectify that next week.
Yeah.
Oh, can I just, Jean, you know when you
I'll
said
hang around anyway, so.
worked out your $40 a day per dog, did that include your blankets, your coats, your worming, your vaccinations, your collars, your muzzles, your leads?
Well, we're not replacing them every time, but there was an allowance for repairs and maintenance, which included, mowing the lawns, keeping the paddocks tidy and maintenance. So I did allow for
If you've
repairs
got
and
a
maintenance, which
cart
includes that.
dogs around with your trailer and your vehicle, is that upkeep on your vehicle?
I did include the vehicle because hopefully we're gonna get some reimbursement if we're travelling specifically for the dogs.
Yeah,
So,
Finish.
Alrighty guys, so I really want to thank everyone for their time and for being so open and honest and really informative. I'm sure there'll be a lot for Heather to take that. On track, MSD and Heather will be hanging around. There's some pizzas down the bottom, and thank you for your time.